Or just do it anyways. I just don't want to start talking until after.
There we go.
Hello, one and all. We are live on Facebook.com, and we are a hockey podcast as the Calgary Flames have won Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the official Stanley Cup playoffs, 3-2. I'll use the word mature victory over the Dallas Stars. I might even say a monumental victory. We'll get into that a little bit. We are here. We've got Devin is here. Hello, Devin.
Hello.
Well, how are you doing?
Fantastic. That was a fantastic performance by the Flames, and I can't wait to dive in.
All right. And we've got Matt here. Matt, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. You're feeling good?
Yeah, well, that was one heck of a performance. I think that they managed the game as best that I've seen them manage a playoff game in like 15 years.
That's a big take. Okay, and we've got Sean is here. Hello.
Hello.
And Sean was not videotaping Heidi, who apparently, according to Twitter, were you dancing and prancing, or what was going on there in the last 5 minutes?
I don't know what to call it, but I was whatever the last commercial was. I got up to go pee, and then when I came back, so the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, I didn't actually sit back down. I just stood there, and I did this little sidestep thing. I've watched too many dance workouts and done too much Zumba in my life to not sit between when you have rest periods. I always shuffle my feet. So that is what I did for the last 5-ish minutes of the game.
I wasn't really in a shuffle mood until Gio took the penalty. Then
yeah,
I was
that got a little crazy.
I got a little nervous. I'm gonna let Devin. We're gonna probably have a little bit of what we call a line change here, as Devin has company over. He's actually, I think he's locked them out of his house, a la Kevin. What Kevin has done to Tyler. I'm now doing. Now this is permeating throughout the hockey podcast crew, apparently. But I'm going to let Devin get the floor first, get some of his thoughts out and kind of his talking points. Dan Stevenson from the Fireside Podcast may join us, may not. If not, we will just keep going. If you have questions, comments, concerns, we will answer them as we go on and give you a shout out as we are. Meanwhile, like the page as well. And I'll do a little bit promos anyway, a little bit later, but I'm ragging into Devin's time. Devin, talk to us. What are you feeling?
It's a great feeling right now. They played a complete game. They were able to start off strong. I loved starting that Lucic, Dubé, Bennett line. They started out with 2 big hits, and that kind of set the tone for the game. It's not a stereotypical Flames game that they played, and it's fantastic to see. One player that obviously I was been critical of during the qualifiers was Dylan Dubé, and he came to play today. That tenacity to go to the net for his second goal, that shows that's the Dylan Dubé that we know. Just willing to go hard to the net and just play hard. And his first goal, fantastic play by I think the one thing that people aren't talking about is the drop pass from Backlund. After Backlund did that drop pass, he took the defenseman's stick away with his own stick, which made it easier for Lucic to pass it over to Dubé for the one-timer goal. So very sneaky good play by Backlund, and obviously great play by Lucic. And it just seems like Lucic is showing his veteran presence throughout these first games, and he is an X factor, and I'm sure there's a bunch of Edmonton Oilers fans are just hitting their head against the wall, not getting that for the year or two that he was up in Edmonton. So it's great to see.
They're angry at Mark Spector because he made a valid point about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but we won't talk about that.
We don't talk about losers on this podcast.
I mean, we did talk about the Leafs, but
Jesus. All right. Too soon, Sean. Too soon.
Still a little hurt there. Still a little hurt there.
I'll keep that in mind for when Canucks get bounced in 4 games.
The gloves are dropped already here. Everyone else kind of chime in. I'm going to wait. I have a couple of takes hot takes, but I want to hear what everyone else has to say.
Okay, I'll start. The first period was good. Flames looked good. Dallas looked a little bit, as I think Kevin mentioned, slow. On just in general. But yeah, those goals by Dubé, and he almost had a third on that breakaway. Looked amazing. I don't know what Devin's talking about, how he thinks that Dubé needs to be better. Obviously, maybe Dubé heard some rumor coming from Devin that he needs to play better, and is now.
Yes, Dylan Dubé listens to our podcast.
Yeah, apparently, maybe Dubé listens to our podcast. You never know. That would be amazing. So no, first period was good. The second period, the first goal against Talbot, I get it was deflected, whatever. But that second goal, 9 seconds later, was such a softie, and he should have had that. And I don't know what happened, and that's when I kind of started panicking and getting nervous. But
I've actually played in net before, and that shot is the biggest pain in the ass as a goalie to stop, because all it needs is it can take a weird carom and you have literally no reaction time. And I don't fault Talbot on that one at all, because you can't react that fast. It was a really lame and weak looking goal. But as a goalie, there's just nothing you could do with that one.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe as I said,
it's just
I've never played the game, so and especially not in goalie, so I guess I don't get that. But from this angle, it looked.
Oh, it looks terrible.
And
I'll admit, so, I've been beat with that kind of thing on more than one occasion, and get really angry at myself for it each time.
But I expected this game, it went up 2-0, but I was like, Dallas is going to come back. There's no way this game's going to be a shutout. I expected at least one goal out of Dallas. But I was mostly happy with the Flames. They let off the gas a little bit, I think, in the second period, but the third period, they looked better, and I was happy that there didn't seem to actually be a ton of stupid penalties called, other than that last penalty against Gio right in the end there. But overall, I was happy with the Flames.
You mentioned they let their foot off the gas there in the second, but I think we have to get, and you guys might have already talked about this, but we have to give them credit for not folding like a cheap, a cheap suit there. I mean, how often have we seen this team get 2 quick goals scored on them and they just stop showing up for the rest of the night? So the fact that they kept going, they battled back. Yeah, they took their foot off the gas for a bit, but especially in that third, I thought that third was a pretty solid period overall. That's what this team has to do if they're going to go past the first round. And I think this was a really, Matt and I talked about this on our show too, but this is really a look at the sort of new Calgary Flames that we're seeing and the fact they can play 60 minutes of hockey.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that because like I would expect that second goal to go in, and especially I feel like if it was Riddick and not Talbot, like that team would have folded. Like they would have just been. They're such an emotional team. I feel maybe more last year than this year, but the fact that like Talbot seemed to kind of like bounce right back from that was really good to see, and the rest of the team kind of didn't seem to collapse, and that's what they need to do to go forward and get through this round.
I have a odd bit of praise. The defensive game of Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau, and Elias Lindholm. I think they were awesome tonight in a defensive role, especially in terms of burning the clock in the third period.
They didn't look as one-dimensional as they often do. Usually they're good from the blue line forward.
I found that top line was better as the game went on. I was not impressed with their first period. Their second period was decent, and the third period they're actually defensively sound.
Hold on. I'm going to stop. I want to stop this right now. Okay, I'm going to declare this. I'm tired of this. It just needs to happen. The number one line in this team is Backlund, Tkachuk, and Mangiapane. It is not Monahan, Gaudreau, and Lindholm.
By what metric?
By every metric that you can look at, that when the game counts, the Backlund, Tkachuk, Mangiapane line takes over every time. They are the number one line.
So even when the coach does a press conference, refers to the other line as the number one line, you're saying he's wrong?
Yes, he is.
Okay. I'll let Jeff know next time I see him.
Thank you.
One thing I want to say is I always like to look at the heat maps provided by Natural Stat Trick after every game that I watch, just to see how it compares to how I viewed the game. And I felt that the Flames did a very good job at keeping the shots from to the outside, and the heat map matches that. Anyone who goes there can go look at it, and anytime that the two spots the Stars have any sort of actual heat in terms of shot, like producing shots from, is like the two corners on the point, and that's it. There's nothing in front of the net. And
that's where the Flames got in trouble in the second. They started to let Dallas get in front of the net, and Dallas capitalized with 2 goals.
Mm-hmm. Both those goals were from the point, but they allowed the.
But they had bodies in front that made it hard for the goalie to see it and hard for the guys to get in the way of it.
Yeah, it's a very rudimentary kind of look, but I always like to look at it just to see how I viewed the game versus what the actual information and stats.
And that was a key to success for the Flames against the Jets too, is keeping the shooters to the outside.
Mm-hmm. And then you look at the Flames side, that they took a lot of shots from the left point, but they still had a decent amount from right in front. And they got their goals from within in some good scoring areas. So, they did a good job of that. In terms of the Monahan, Gaudreau, Lindholm line, they were able to hold the zone, but you need more from them in terms of to go forwards. They didn't control most of the play, and they didn't produce any points. And that's the one thing that I think Flames need to take out of this, is finding a way to get that line going.
Kevin, can we call that Gaudreau line the second line then, or do you want us to demote them even further?
No, I'll be happy to call them the second line. But how many? Like my point is, how many times have we talked about Monahan, Gaudreau, and we need more from Monahan, Gaudreau, and Lindholm? And how many times have we said, I'm really impressed with the Backlund, Tkachuk, Mangiapane line? To me, that tells me that is the number one line. That is the line that drives the Flames.
I don't.
The Backlund, Tkachuk, Mangiapane line.
I think what you're getting at is that the quote unquote second line, or I guess Kevin's first line, which is actually kind of my first line too. They really have shown they've come to play this off season or this postseason, and they're noticeably better than the Monahan, Lindholm, and Gaudreau line. So I agree.
For me, there was a couple of significant. This win was significant for a couple of things. I'm not as smart as Louis DeBrusque. I'm going to precurse by saying that, but I certainly didn't see the game the same way he did, and especially when I was looking on the heat map natural stat trick. The Stars the Stars, while they were putting pressure on, they were not getting shots on goal. They only had 3 halfway through the third period. I thought the Flames, even in the second period when the Stars tied the game, I didn't really feel that the Stars took over the game. I felt like and it was that big goal by Rasmus Andersson helped, but I still felt like the Flames were pretty much in control of this game, which to me showed some maturity. But it's also, to me, I think the significant thing to me is who starred tonight. Dylan Dubé, who the Dallas Stars gave up that draft pick for Chris Russell, by the way, and Rasmus Andersson, the younger Lions of the Flames. We've talked about it when we talk about the Canucks. We talked about the new era. I think tonight is sort of the beginning of an ushering of, I may be overstating this, but we're starting to see the new era of the Flames. We're starting to see the Dubé steps up. We're starting to see Anderson. I didn't think Noah Hannafin was out of place. Sam Bennett crashing around. I thought that Bennett and Dubé were really effective. We started to see kind of the new Flames kind of step in. And we are certainly seeing a new identity. I don't think the Dallas Stars were expecting this from this Calgary Flame team, and I certainly don't think Corey Perry was expecting to get punched in the face by Matthew Tkachuk in the first period after all those years with the Anaheim Ducks, that they were punching the Flames in the face game after game after game.
Well, I think that it's an important thing for this team moving forward to develop those young guys and have more players coming up and taking key spots. And, you know, you look at the guys that are in the stables, guys like Valimaki and Peltier, Pedersen and Phillips, like those are some high-end skill prospects that over the next couple of years could find themselves in key spots for this team. And it's good to see that the young guys like Mangiapane and Dubé are elevating their games and looking like top 6 forwards in a playoff series, not just, oh, you're also there.
I think we have to be careful, though. We can't overestimate what we've got here. Dubé scored 2 goals in the first game after 5 games where he didn't score 2 goals. Like, yeah, he looked good tonight, but it's not as though he's now a superstar. And while I know Kevin's saying, you know, that's kind of our first line, I wouldn't say let's go out and trade Goudreau. We got Dubé. Like, he's making progress for sure, but it's nice to see that kind of middle 6 scoring. But I don't now look at this guy as a top 5 forward on this team.
And that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is this game was an example of sort of maybe the Flames that we've been waiting for. They're a little more gritty, a little bit more tougher. Even last year against Colorado, 2-2, it would have been 7-2 at the end of the game.
And somebody mentioned Anderson earlier. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel a lot more comfortable knowing we'll probably lose Brody and or Hamonic with the way that Anderson stepped up.
Yeah, Anderson needed to step up for sure. He was looking a little off, or just not where I kind of wanted to see him in the qualifying round. So it was nice to see him get a goal and see him a little bit more prominent in this game. And
when he signed that 4-5 deal starting next year, I thought, you know what, he might be overpaid the first couple of years, but I think if he keeps playing like this, he's going to step nicely into that $4.5 million a year salary.
That's a steal, though, for the Flames. That's a great deal.
Yeah, well, and if you look at what it'll probably cost to bring a Brody or a Hamonic back, you might say, you know what, we're not willing to pay that. Let's spend that money elsewhere and have Anderson step in there.
He does need to step up his point production, but he away from the puck and the grittiness he brings, despite not actually putting up many quote-unquote hits. Because going back to one of the discussions we've had in previous podcasts, talking about how physical he can be, he actually – It's strange that he doesn't actually put up many hits according to the NHL.com stats, but he does bring a grittiness and a swagger too. He has a swagger, and I think that's big.
We talked about this last time I was on with Devin and Matt and Kevin, but I think if you look at, we can't always judge a young player by what they're doing now and their potential. If you look at Raz, Matt and I have seen Raz since he first started coming to Flames rookie camp when he showed up overweight and not in shape into where he is now. And Devin, we talked about this with Hannafin too. I mean, these are still young players. And as long as you're seeing them moving up every year, yeah, Sean, you're right. There's some things there that, we might want to see different, but we're seeing them move in that right direction where those things will get worked on. And I think, to me, same with Dubé, we're seeing that step up every year. And that's what you got to look at as raw talent that you want to nurture.
100%. When you look at prospects and you're the younger guys on your NHL roster, you got to make sure that they're projecting still in an upward trajectory. Because if they're not, then you have Emile Poirier, and I know that he was going through some personal things with alcoholism, but he was a high prospect, and he didn't turn out, even though he was one of our top prospects going into, I believe it was, we drafted him in 2016. 13?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Monahan's draft.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, well, when you see these young players and the projecting, or the trajectory is a lot higher than those past ones, it's really encouraging to see that, and especially when they're making an impact when it really counts. These are huge growing pains, or not growing pains, but it's nice to see that they're growing in the right direction.
I have a quick question. What is going to end first? The Columbus Blue our podcast, or the Columbus Blue Jackets and Tampa Bay Lightning game, which is now going into a 5th overtime?
Played 2.5 games now.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we'll be still getting ready for our next show, and then that game will end.
Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to bring that in.
Thank goodness they're not playing it back-to-back.
Yeah, that's true too. That's a very valid point though. Like the fact that it's going to 5th overtime. I shared this in our podcast chat, but the Vegas Golden Knights are very appreciative of the Flames and the Dallas Stars for not putting the game into overtime for them, because I think the Canes, who by the way have an amazing social media presence, they're laughing about how much this game is. This game was supposed to start, I believe, at 6:00.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the end of the first period right now.
Yeah.
I was looking at a few of the Canes players on Twitter who said we can't go back to the hotel and we're not supposed to sit and watch this game, so we're not sure what to do until it's over.
Yeah. I also wanted to share, because you guys were talking about how it's a fact that these young guys from the Flames are the ones kind of that put up the points and everything. So the Stockton Heat, their social media account, so they for the Flames and the Stars game, they put the final score as Heat alumni 3 and Dallas Stars 2.
Nice.
Yeah, so they've been really cheering on these younger guys, the guys that did really well down there. So that's really nice to see. And
we're talking about how that top Flames line didn't perform tonight, but this is what you need. When that top line's not performing, you need the depth scorers to come in and pick up that slack. They can't do it every night, but once in a while they need to be able to do that. And how often in the past, I'd say that was a big part of the Colorado problem last year, is the depth guys were doing their job, but that top line wasn't doing anything, or Kevin's second line wasn't doing anything. So I think, you know what? Yeah, well, Monahan and Goudreau and Lindholm didn't look as good offensively tonight. I think Matt was right. They looked better defensively. They didn't look bad in that first round, or the play-in round. So I think it'll be a big question of what do we see from those guys next game.
Yeah, and if you look at with how there was nobody on the Flames roster that looked bad defensively throughout the contest. Everybody played a very responsible game. They back-checked hard. They were in the right positions to limit chances for Dallas. And it looked more like what you would see from teams like Chicago or LA or Boston in years gone by, where just that composed defense where if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to earn it. And that's something that's certainly been lacking from the Flames since Daryl Sutter was the coach.
Guys, I got breaking news for you.
Wait,
Breaking news. Wait, do you have breaking news?
I can do a breaking.
You don't have a soundboard. It's okay. I got breaking
Wait, it's
news.
breaking news.
Breaking news. Okay, due to the length of the Lightning Blue Jackets game 1 between the Bruins and the Hurricanes, originally scheduled for 8:00 p.m. Eastern tonight, has been rescheduled to Wednesday, August 12th at 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern, which is 9 a.m. over here.
9 a.m. So they all got to go home and then get up early to play.
Well, no,
They should do it like minor hockey style. You're on the ice at 6 a.m., kid.
So I mean, they're in Toronto, so they.
Oh yeah, okay, that's
they
true.
have to, but they still have to play at 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because they have to play. Because I think there's a 1 o'clock or. I don't know what was going on tomorrow. I can't remember.
It'd probably be quicker to put them in a bus and get them to Edmonton to play on the extra ice here.
Right? Yeah, I was waiting for this to happen.
So now we got 11 o'clock Eastern, and then 3 o'clock Eastern, and then 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. We got 4 games tomorrow, 5 games of hockey to watch tomorrow now.
Pending none of them go to overtime.
Yeah, that's all I'm cheering for now from Toronto is just every game go to like triple overtime.
Somebody's going to start calling the Hamilton WHL team being like, hey guys, is your ice available?
Yeah. That being said, just wait till one of the Vancouver games goes to double, triple overtime, and it's 4 a.m. Eastern, and they've got the CBC Rogers crew still going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like any of these games that like start at like around 8:30 in Alberta, like those games can go really freaking long. Like I was telling Sean about a couple of years ago when it was Vegas and LA, and I think they went to like third overtime or something, and I remember being at like the bar downtown because I think it was like a Friday or Saturday night, and it was still on.
At what point as coaches do you say, let's just swap goalies and hope for the best? Somebody's going to score soon.
This is the third 5 overtime game in NHL history.
Nice.
The other 2, I believe, were in the 1930s.
No, those were the 6 overtime games.
Oh, okay. Right.
The five overtime games was Pittsburgh and Philadelphia in 2000 with Keith Primo scoring. And then the other one was Dallas versus the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim.
Wow.
In 2003 with Peter Sikora scoring At
least with those other games, fans could say they got their value.
They had to watch a full extra game and then some without beer and booze.
Did you guys see that there were actually 4 fans in attendance tonight?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, like I remember in that 04 Cup run, the Game 6 against Vancouver, it was just like what you guys were describing, and like it was an 8 o'clock start, and like I didn't get home until like 2:30 that morning. Like it was just ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, you
think that was bad? I've talked to some of the media guys who said, yeah, fans got home at 2:30. We still had to finish our stories and get out of here. Some said they just found a corner and like there's still 10 a.m. practice tomorrow. We'll just find a corner by the dressing room and wait.
I remember in 2007, Devin and I were out in Vancouver for that game. We watched the first 4 periods at our uncle's in like proper Vancouver. Drove all the way back out to Tawasin and watched another 2 periods out there.
Wow.
Or watch another period out there. Like it was just insane.
Here, I got my breaking news.
Breaking news.
There it is. You like that?
Breaking news.
There.
You're a little late, but thanks.
Earlier we were talking about ice time. And
well, I got it when the goal is scored. I've got
breaking news
there. So I'm ready.
Okay, Devin, you want to talk about ice time, which isn't breaking news.
Well, it isn't breaking news, but Seth Jones is over 61 minutes today, and Zach Wawrinski, as of right now, is over 57 minutes.
Do you think the losing coach bag skates his team tomorrow?
Victor Hedman, who wasn't sure if he was going to actually play today, has over 54 minutes.
Is someone going to get 100 shots in this game?
I think Tampa's already there.
No, Korpisalo is now the top goalie who has the most shots against in a playoff series or playoff game. I believe it's 81 he's at right now, and he just beat Kelly Rudy. I believe his was 78.
That's ridiculous.
This game though is a momentous. Like whoever wins this game, I think carries huge momentum going forward.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to recover. It's going to be hard to recover for that. But if Tampa Bay wins this, I've already declared that I'm like, even though I'm always wrong with predictions, and I'm trying not to predict. I did predict Columbus to win this series, but if Tampa Bay wins this game, that might be the 1989 moment for the Tampa Bay Lightning in terms of Joel Otto. Yeah, whatever it was. Yes, it was kicked in, but that turning point, that goal that you need, that if Tampa Bay gets it, that might be their turning point.
I'm calling it now. Elvis Merlitskin starts game 2.
Yeah, I was about to say, if he's good to go, like you got to at this point.
Yeah. Let's get back.
Who's Tampa's backup to go against him?
It's Curtis McElhinney.
It is Curtis McElhinney.
Well, then I guess we know who's winning that game.
I didn't even know that he plays for them.
Call up David Ayers.
If you're not in the bubble, you can't call the guy up right now.
Well, it's a Zamboni driver. He's there.
I don't know if he is there.
I think all teams have at least 3 goalies there.
Yeah, they do.
I think the Flames have 4. I think.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could just trade him Gillies and they could trade him back the next day. Probably better than McElhinney.
Oh no, keep him over there. I don't want Gillies back.
That's what the Whitecaps had to do in their bubble and for the MLS. They had to get a goalie from the Montreal Impact on loan because they lost 2 of theirs.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to this game while I'm looking for something. What other things did we notice in this game?
I'm going to step in here, and actually, it's not so much this game as it is this entire year. I thought that our power play is more dynamic than it has been in the past. And the reason we still have the umbrella, we still have our defensemen up there with 2 wingers on the side, and then 1-2 in front of the net. But the one difference that I noticed was the fact that Sean Monahan wasn't just in the high slot or in the slot just waiting for a pass. He actually supported the top defenseman and the sideboard winger, Gaudreau or Tkachuk, and was able to create an odd man triangle, if you will, around their top forwards or their forwards who are at the top of the PK for Dallas. And so I thought that was really dynamic and fantastic to see finally us trying to figure something else out. And I thought that, I noticed that with Monahan mostly, and that was on the first power play. And then we scored with that second power play unit with Dubé from Lucic. So I just thought I'd point that out too.
I think one thing I've noticed, not only this game but last series from that power play unit, is they're putting pucks on net. There's a lot of times in the regular season where they would pass the puck too much, looking for the right shot, and we'd end up then getting it taken from us, and back out of the zone we go. And I was noticing that those guys are doing a good job of just trying to put the puck deep in the zone, either on net or near net, and that's how you score on the power play.
Before we continue, I got to play this. Sorry, Devin, I have to. We talked about it.
The Toronto Maple Leafs literally, and that word is overused a smidge, but literally gave up 50 shots at home to a team that played last night, and that would be embarrassing enough on its own. On its own, that would be unacceptable. On its own, you would never believe that team would A, make the playoffs, and B, do anything in them. Oh, but we're just getting started. That's not even the worst part. Are you kidding me? That's not even close. The Toronto Maple Leafs lost an actual National Hockey League game to a 42-year-old damn pony driver. For them, forget Game 7.
I had to. I'm sorry. You reminded me. I had to find it. Sorry.
Oh, that's awesome. I've never heard that clip before. That's great.
You know, having Steve Dangle as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan makes it a bit easier. It really does. Oh, God. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
Go ahead. Anyway, yes, power play. Flames power play. I ruined everything.
I just think that I think, you know, what Devin was saying, what I was saying, it seems like the power play is more deliberate. It seems like they have a plan. And so often in the past with the power play, it looked like they just sent their best guys out there and said, you got 2 minutes. Hopefully you'll score. Good luck, boys. Like, I don't know about everyone else, but it seems like there's actually a plan, and the guys are actually executing on said plan now. And that's, you know, it's good to see that that's coming together, and we can start to see the Calgary Flames. You know, Devin, you were saying they're still in the umbrella, and there's nothing wrong with the umbrella formation. But you know, I think that we're really starting to be able to see, okay, there is something going on here, and everyone seems to be on the same page with it.
Well, one thing that I've noticed, especially in the last 3 games, is a complete difference in their composure level. And I think that on the overall, that is the major difference in like why things like the power play and the penalty kill are looking better, is just that overall everybody just seems more focused on the details and doing all of the smart little low percentage plays that need to happen in order to generate those chances. And the Flames have just looked a lot more focused on all fronts throughout each of the last 3 games.
One thing I had written in my notes on that tonight, Matt, was I wrote down nobody was trying to be the hero. It seemed like everyone was trying to play their role on the team, and nobody was trying to go out and say, you know what, no one's doing this, strap them on, I'll do it for us. And in the past, I think we've had too many guys who've said, I'll try to win this game, or, oh, we're down, I'll try to do it all, and that doesn't work. So that's one thing I noticed, was everyone had their role, everyone knew their role. I mean, even we put Lucic in the circle tonight. That's not his role, but he did his best to try and win those faceoffs. And so I think everyone was receptive to whatever coach asked them to do. Just go do that thing.
Did you think?
Yeah, I've heard that for sure. Like it definitely seemed like the team was together, and and as you said, like everybody has their role. Like it doesn't need to be on 1 or 2 people on the team. Like everybody has what there should be. And yeah, I was happy to see. I saw Lucic take I think he took at least 1 face off, I believe. And it was good to see. And it was good to see that top line, that line start as well. When I saw that they were starting, I was like, that's a great idea to get the game going.
Yeah.
We on our preview, which you can listen on Facebook.com hockey podcast. On our preview, I had to admit I was a little concerned about the Dallas defense with Heiskanen and Klingberg. Heiskanen wasn't great, but I'm warning you. I'm just warning you about him.
Do you have a sound effect for when you give us warnings?
Don't confuse him.
Kevin needs a soundboard.
You need to like flash Carolina's 3rd jersey logo. You know,
storm warning.
According to the natural stat trick, Milan Lucic had 11 faceoff wins today.
Wow. Well, those were in the offensive zone,
as you were talking. But
another point with Lucic, he becomes the first Flame to have a 5-game point streak to start the playoffs since Jarome Iginla in 2006.
Oh my God,
that's a wonderful stat.
Give him the C. Give him the C.
Lucic is literally the new Iginla.
On the other side, James Neal probably had a 5-game pouting streak going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I can't honestly wait to go back. I was on the Oilers YYC podcast right after the Lucic Neal trade to discuss it with them, and I can't wait to go back. I was just like, even like it was before the pause and everything. I was like, so when the season's all over, I'm like, can I come back and come talk to you guys about this? Because I think I know where this is going.
Wait and talk to them after the draft so you can rub in whatever we get.
Dave Neal didn't score a goal in the new year until the play-in time.
Do you think we're going to see Edmonton just naturally at the draft get up for the first pick? Oh, wait, We got to wait. Hold on. Sit down. We're not used to this.
They got to wait till 14.
Unless they trade up because it feels weird.
Yeah.
There's picks in the 2 digits? What?
The Flames, did the Flames look faster than the Stars?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Like-
did.
At least the first period, yes.
Well, Dallas as a team does not seem to be overly quick, and I think that's just due to the age of most of their forwards. They're actually the second oldest team in the NHL, so it kind of makes sense. The Flames are a young, fast-ish team, and yeah, that is going to be one of the main reasons why I think the Flames will end up taking this series.
I don't know if they looked faster, if they just had more room to move. I think it's hard to look fast when most of your zone entries you're being pushed along the boards, which is what happened at Dallas in the first and the third.
Yeah. I mean, when you have Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski, Corey Perry, you're not whoever you're playing against, you're gonna make that team look fast. And yeah, they definitely pressured.
You forgot Blake Como.
Oh man, yeah, former Flame
and Andrew Cogliano. Best guys.
What
in the
year
NHL.
is it? Like 2006?
Matt and I were looking on our show about how much they're actually paying those guys to be on their fourth line.
I was listening to that.
And you-
I don't know. There's a couple of guys on Dallas that I think we will see more. One of it was Rufe Hintz.
yes.
I think he's going to be a factor in this series. He had a quiet night, but I think he's a guy that they're going to. And I don't know. Was someone going to say something?
I was just on Rupe Hintz. He created a bunch of scoring chances as well. So yeah, you'll definitely see more of him.
And Tyler Seguin, I don't know a lot, but I'm another guy I have a little worried about. Yeah.
Is that your
What's his warning?
Do I need to take cover?
Something right away. I had to pull it up here. Okay, so
right? That's
I thought maybe that game was over.
I was like, I've got it on, but I'm on. I'm watching it on Sportsnet now, so it's like
a
there's
little
still
bit delayed. Yeah.
there's some delay.
I don't know. To me, it sounded like a fart.
oh,
So Kevin, what you're saying is that Sagan's too busy being sexy and being too good looking to actually be good at hockey anymore.
maybe it is entirely possible.
Yeah, Kevin was not appreciating all the gifs and like half naked pictures of Sagan I was posting in the podcast chat earlier.
So is this the quintessential example of he's sexy and he knows it?
It might be. He's just too good looking now to actually play hockey properly.
He's bringing sexy back, but he's not bringing scoring back.
I think, Rupe Hintz we're talking about, I think he's a guy we'll be worried about, but I think he's playing over his head right now. And we talked about this in our show too. I think on that top 6, I'm not sure that's where he needs to be, but I could definitely see them moving him down the lineup a little bit, move Sagan and him around. And I think he could be a dangerous depth guy, especially if you put him out there with a Corey Perry.
Yeah, there was just a few quiet people in Dallas today that I think if they get on, it is going to be tough. But I think that definitely I think the Flames have the speed advantage, especially forward to defense, mostly.
Does anybody think the
Yeah.
Flames have a bit of an advantage coming into this, having just played a series where Dallas played a set of individual games against a bunch of teams?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
I've been thinking that for a while, ever since they announced this. I'm like, the teams that played the qualifying rounds, I feel have the advantage in the first couple of games, and they need to take advantage of it. And the Flames did. They were able to, especially in the first period, where that Dallas just looked like they were standing still compared to the Flames.
It almost feels like Calgary's had a practice round at how to do the whole, playoff series now. And I think coming into that, especially not having played for so long, they may have a bit of a mental advantage that way.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely do have a mental advantage, but don't count out Dallas because their top guys were not their top guys. And
No.
if they are rolling, watch out. If
It
Jamie
could be a
Benn
long
decides – exactly. If Jamie Benn decides to take over the series – He has the potential to. Same with Tyler Seguin. If he starts shooting the puck like we know that he can, it's not going to be good. And John Klingberg, I didn't really notice him that much, honestly. I thought he was very quiet, and Nero Heiskanen too. Those are the two top defensemen, and let alone they didn't have their number one goalie in. And don't get me wrong, Anton Khudobin, he's a great backup goalie and a great 1B guy. But if Ben Bishop is on his game, then he's going to cause us fits. So definitely take this win, but do not take them light for the next game.
Well, I think you're right, Devin. The Flames capitalized on what they were given, just like we saw against the Jets with some of their players being out. They capitalized on what they're given, and if we do see Bishop in, you've got to take those opportunities when Sagan's not playing, when Bishop's not in, to get those early W's.
Well, and the Flames are going to be in tough for Game 2, just due to the fact that the last time they won a Game 2 was against the San Jose Sharks in the conference finals in 2004. They've lost 10 straight Game 2s.
That and Dallas has a very good coach behind the bench in Rick Bowness. He's been around forever. He knows what they need to do to capitalize on what the Flames showed them today and how to slow them down. I expect a completely different, some major changes in terms of how they approach the Flames and how to slow them down for Game 2 as well.
And the Flames looked terrible last round in Game 2 as well, but they were able to answer back, and I think that's going to be the big question here. I don't think anybody thinks we're going to sweep this in 4. There's going to be adversity. We're going to lose, but the question is, how do the Flames respond back after that loss?
This is a 7-game series to me. This has the feeling of a long series, and I see some overtimes. And
do you see 5 overtimes at once?
I don't, but I'm watching one now.
I have a question for the group, though. What did everybody think about Matthew Tkachuk?
Awesome, as always.
Yeah, he was better. I still think, as we were talking about earlier or last podcast, that he needs to produce, but he is doing the drawing penalties and kind of doing what he kind of needs to do on the ice, throwing hits, and I love the fight with Corey Perry. So I saw someone tweet saying something about, like, imagine 10-year-old Matthew Tkachuk looking up to Corey Perry and being like, I'm going to fight that guy one day. And
this guy's going to stay past his prime in the NHL, so one day I'll get to fight him.
Yeah, one day I get to fight him.
Sorry, are you done? I'm
Yes, go ahead.
Are you done?
Are
you done?
Are you done, Kevin?
No, I'm trying
Kevin's never done.
I'm going to be critical, actually. I actually thought, generally, I think we need to see more from both of those lines. I thought, like...
no, I get that. I'll agree with that. Like, those top 2 lines, you still need to see, especially that top line. The second line was a little bit better. I thought Backlund had some good chances.
Now I'm confused. Which one is the second line?
First line. That's Kevin's first.
Hold on, let me write this down.
The second line is Dubé, Bennett, and Lucic.
I mean, honestly, in my
all right, carry the one. Okay, I think I got it.
In my heart, the top line is Dubé, Lucic, Bennett. So
Kevin, I think you're right. We need to see more there, but we also have to remember this is Game 1, and we don't want them to go all out and potentially hurt themselves or physically exhaust themselves too much in that first game. I think it's round 1, it's Game 1. This is a slow burn if we need to go far, and I think we saw enough from Matthew Tkachuk that I think for what we didn't see from Tkachuk, we saw Dubé raise his game to sort of fill some of those holes, and I think we'll see Tkachuk get better as the series goes on.
And I don't think we need to put all that on Tkachuk either. Like, he doesn't need to be constantly hitting people, constantly hitting, constantly doing everything. And I think he knows that too.
Well, and that's how you're going to lose him.
But let me ask you a question. Can the Flames win if Matthew Tkachuk is not producing points?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's enough people on this team. Dubé, Mangiapane, Backlund. There's enough people on this team that can produce points.
Well, the depth is the key with this team. Yeah. And
I think as long as the depth is producing, the answer is yes.
And as long as Tkachuk keeps on drawing penalties, he's drawn 6 within the qualifying round in this first game. 3 of them three of those power plays have resulted in goals, and that speaks volumes.
if you look at every year the Flames have gone far, we had 86 and 89. We had Tim Hunter as the pest. In 04, we had Christopher Oliwan, Chris Simon. You need those guys who can do that work. And now I think we've got Bennett, we've got Tkachuk, and we've got Lucic who can do that. Somebody needs to play that role. And I think him stepping up there, he will get some offensive chances, and I think he will score. But I mean, not based on Kevin's numbers, based on the coach's numbers, he's on the second line. And, I think we need to look at that first line to produce so that Tkachuk can be that pest and draw the penalties and make the big hits.
That line was the best line for the Flames today. But I think they do need production from from Tkachuk specifically to win this series. This is only game one. And they were able to win without production from the top two lines because you had the third line stepping up. But you still need to win this series, a 7-game series versus a veteran Dallas Stars team. I do think you need Tkachuk producing.
And I'm not saying he won't produce, but I think there's also a benefit to him going in the corner and digging it out so somebody else can put it in the net.
Yeah,
that's still an apple. That's still production. I liked his game today, but I've put him in. It was another sort of quote unquote quiet game for Matthew Tkachuk today. And he needs to be louder.
Sean was talking about Elias Pettersson, and he was talking about him needing to be loud. I think Matthew Tkachuk. What I'm using that barometer to say, I think Matthew Tkachuk needs to be louder in order. I'm not saying that he needs to be like blowing up.
You said Monahan said this?
No, Sean talked about Elias Pettersson.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Sean Monahan sounds something to be loud. That's kind of the pot calling the kettle black, isn't it?
No, I was talking about Sean saying
okay.
He needed to be loud. I think Matthew Tkachuk needs to be loud.
I actually don't think so. I think there's other people on this team that can step up and as I said, be that loud voice. Like Duke and like I said, Rasmus Sanderson, other people. Like he just needs to like low key just be drawing penalties.
I think there's also a difference between being loud in the room and being loud on the ice.
Yeah. And he's loud.
I mean, he needs to be loud on the ice. We need it. The Flames are better when Matthew Tkachuk is living rent free in other teams' heads.
And that's where I'm at. It's like it was a quiet game. I'm not saying like necessarily on the score sheet for him, but outside the fight, did I think he was being like top end Matthew Tkachuk, where he's in every scrum, pissing off everyone, making me yell at him because he's an absolute dickhead? No. No, he wasn't.
It's a long playoff. We all have a day off, but I think it'll be how he responds in game 2.
And I think that the Flames also need, like, if they're planning on progressing and going on a deep run, which, like, this team is built where they could go on a run, they also need to pace themselves and not burn themselves out by hitting everything that moves. Like, they got up 2-0. They managed the game from that point on. Like, you don't need to have, like, Gaudreau and Monahan or Tkachuk's line expending excess energy when you have the game in control.
I agree, man.
And I think that that's one of the differences, I think, with this team. What we've seen the last 3 games is that their on-ice management has been better. And I think that, like, they didn't need to push beyond what, like, they had the game in control. Just lock it down, get the win, and then reset for game 2. And I think
as Flames fans, we want to see them play the hits. Just like when you go to your favorite concert, you want to see them play the hits. And tonight they didn't need to.
No, but there is talking about, other people producing. The reason why they have Elias Lindholm on the wing is because he can produce on the wing, and I have not seen it. So there's the notion if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I would love to see him at center for the next game because he hasn't been producing and he hasn't been the Elias Lindholm that he needs to be on the wing. And I feel like he is more productive as a center, and I think that'd bring more depth overall as well.
Who do you put his wingers as?
Put Monahan on the wing.
Put Monahan on the wing, or you put Backlund on the wing. One of the two.
Backlund hates the wing. I would be more Monahan.
I wouldn't break up the top line at this point. I wouldn't break up the Backlund, Mangiapane, Tkachuk line. I think you have to keep that one together. At this point, I think you're going to be the top 6 is set, the top 9 is set. At this point, you're not changing that after beating the Jets and then winning today. So
don't get me wrong. I don't we won today. We were successful. I want to see more out of Lindholm, and it just doesn't seem like he's doing it on the wing right now. And it might be a confidence issue. I've said before, if he shoots the puck, he has a hell of a shot, and he can bury them if he wants him to. But he just doesn't seem like he has that pep right now.
Devin, besides Lindholm, who else can you criticize? Because you were really picking on Jankowski and Dubé, and they were responsible for all 3 goals in the game today because Jankowski got an assist on Anderson's goal. So who else can you complain about?
That got taken away, Matt.
Oh, well.
Jankowski is now back to producing no points in any playoff game ever.
Jankowski needs to just sit and eat popcorn, for the love of God. Do not have him out here anymore. I am sick of seeing his number. 77, get off the ice, please.
Yeah. So my thing is to say that he needs to be fired into the sun. Used to say that about a couple people on the Flames, but now Jankowski needs to be fired into the sun.
That's a fire in the sun kind of thing? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, Heidi, go ahead.
No, I was done saying what I was saying.
Okay.
I mean, I can shit on more people,
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God.
Can I praise someone? Can I praise someone?
Hold on, Kevin. Where's that warning or where's that breaking news?
We
gotta go.
You got it because we have it on delay, so you probably had it on cable.
No way.
The Tampa Bay Lightning have won Game 1 against the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Who finally scored?
Boo.
Braden Point.
Now the league's calling the bus drivers. Hey, bring the teams back.
It's almost 9:30 in Toronto. They're not starting the game. They only do that in Edmonton.
Wait, are you sure they scored?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm obviously way behind here.
So maybe you'll see the goal.
Okay, it was Braden Point. Okay, so
good job. I think Sean has Braden Point on his goal team, so that's good.
He does.
Point second of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Points racking them up.
So do you think Braden finally said to the boys, guys, I'm tired. Let's just end this one. Here we go.
Yeah. One, I did not know who this writer is, but he said Braden Point, a statue will be made in your honor by all Lightning beat writers.
So, Devin, you were talking about moving Lindholm off of the wing. I don't know that just swapping him and Monahan is the solution there. And I know what Sean's saying about the top 6 and even the top 9 being fortified. The only thing I could see them maybe doing is move Lindholm to center on the Lucic line, slide Bennett to the wing, and put Dubé on the Monahan-Goudreau line for a game, just to try and maybe give Lindholm less minutes and a bigger offensive role to get him going again.
Yeah, I
don't want to touch that Kachuk line, so those are the only other guys you can move around.
I mean, he's a very important player when he's playing, and he can be an X factor when he wants to be. We've seen that, all of us. I know we have. So it's just he's too quiet right now for me to be satisfied with his game. And yes, you guys were talking about it earlier. It's a playoffs. You gotta manage your minutes. You gotta make sure you're not going balls to the wall every single shift because it's a marathon.
I think if you put him centering Lucic and Bennett, he'd have to be the offensive guy there, and that could get him the spark he needs to.
Totally. And
those guys that get to the puck, it's your job to put it in.
And with the way that they're playing right now, that's not a bad idea.
I wouldn't keep him there forever, but it might just get him going.
Well, exactly. Get the confidence up, because once you have that confidence, I feel like he'll be flying.
And after tonight, moving Dubé to the top line, second line, I'm very confused now, but moving him to the Goudreau-Monahan line for a game or a part of a game to start with probably would be a nice reward for him as well.
Totally.
I want to praise one more forward, and I have two more questions about two other players. Tobias Reeder, I thought was very effective. I thought his speed was I thought he was effective with the speed. He had a couple chances. I haven't been very high on Tobias Reeder overall, but this play-in, playoff, I think he's been very effective on that wing with Ryder and with Ryan and Jankowski.
It almost looks like he's used to playing summer hockey in the World Championships or something.
Yeah, but he's been really effective in what he's been able to do.
He's been amazing. I've him and Ryan together on that fourth line. And Ryan's been quietly good. He hasn't really been too flashy, and you haven't really noticed him. But that two as a tandem, keep them together, and Reeder's played amazing because he's even at a fourth line, he's still producing scoring chances.
And not just in this postseason, but I thought even during the regular season, I very, very rarely looked at Reeder and said, wow, he's a liability to this team. I mean, for a guy who had no job at the beginning of the year, came here as a walk-on in training camp and won a job, I think for a fourth line guy making $700,000, he's more than exceeded expectations.
Would you re-sign him?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I'm happy with him.
I'd even give him $100,000 raise.
Oh, you're touching.
That's generous.
Old move.
Yeah,
You're more generous than Bob Nicholson.
Probably.
Yeah,
and I won't blame him for every loss.
For the entire season.
That's right.
Well, maybe if they had Tobias Reeder and Milan Lucic, the Oilers might still be playing.
Yeah,
And Talbot.
And Cam Talbot possibly too.
You know, the amount of guys we got from Edmonton, it's almost like it feels like a prison break. They just ran south till they found another hockey rink and asked for refugee status.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Edmonton had James Neal and Chris Russell.
Talbot got here and said, we tried to bring Connor. He couldn't make it past Red Deer.
Oh, yeah.
He yelled, save yourselves.
I will get to Talbot in a second, but what did we think of Giordano tonight?
Better.
Oh, okay. Not his best game, but not bad.
It was fine.
He's not having a Norris season, but I mean, for what we saw during the season, I think it's for a guy his age, it's what I'm projecting him to do.
Yeah, we can't have him having a Norris season forever. He's how old now?
And it's not like we saw a great season and now he's dropped. This is kind of what we've seen from him all year.
I thought he was better than the past two games that he's played. I thought he was more noticeable. And not just because he took out a ref like Dennis Weidman or a linesman, but, he actually was able to recover and get back and potentially stop a goal from getting scored.
Yeah.
Here's a stat that I also want to bring up. This is fascinating to me. Derek Forbort, ice time, 20 minutes, 22 seconds. Noah Hannafin, 17 minutes, 45 seconds.
I noticed Forbort more out there than
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because Dallas has a lot of larger scoring forwards where like a team like Winnipeg didn't really have.
I was going to say, I bet
guys.
if we look at the Winnipeg series, you'd see those numbers flipped.
Yeah, and I think that like especially against a guy like Jamie Benn, you'd much rather have Forbort out there than Hannafin.
Well, and if you're playing a guy like that with Anderson's playing a very offensive role. I'd rather have somebody like Forbort who can play the defensive side of that tandem.
And you know what? I'm going to pull a Sean and say that I said this earlier when Hannafin when Hamonic was not going to be out. I wanted Forbort on that second line. I wanted that.
We need 80s flashback harps so we can go back and replay that clip from like 80s
How to
sitcoms.
get on that?
My gosh.
You need the Ripley effect like they had in 80s sitcoms when they do a flashback.
Yeah.
For our listeners and viewers, we've been asking Kevin up a lot of himself even before the podcast started, so we're just ripping into him a little bit more.
Yeah, why not? Just keep going.
I think
there we go.
I think going into this, Derek Forbort was a guy the Flames brought in as a body at the deadline, and I don't think there was much intent to re-sign him, but I think he's a guy who could play his way into being on this team next year.
I think he's got it, like, I'm not going to say a high priority, but a medium priority, you bring him back.
Well, right now I've been happier with him than I was with Shillington at any point, so.
At 2.5, I think they will be
go.
easier to fit him than Gustafsson.
I've tried to bring both of them back, to be honest.
Yeah. I honestly would rather see Brody and Hamonic both walk, spend like one of the contracts on re-signing Gustafsson and Forbort and throwing the other contract at like upgrading the forwards.
Although,
looking at it, I believe we have $19.5 million in cap after, or maybe it's 16.5 after the salary upgrade for Anderson in the offseason. So we do have a little bit of room, but obviously you don't want to blow it all on just one guy.
Well, like if you look at how the roster would be set up defensively, like if you brought both Gustafsson and Forward back, like if you slotted Valimaki into that lineup as well, that's your defense core. Like with Anderson, Hannafin, and Giordano, like you'd have all six that you'd need, and you'd be saving money to say go sign somebody from Arizona.
The nice thing is there's no big player besides Talbot that's going to need a big payday after this.
okay, but I need to hit this warning button here. I think the Flames will miss Travis Hamonic more than you realize. I think he's a warrior. I think he's one of those guys that he's a hockey player. He plays with no teeth.
I don't disagree, but they played without him for so long this year. I think they've learned how they can get by without that.
And Forbert plays the same way, and I think he's actually a better version of Hamonic right now, in all honesty.
I think Hammer does a lot we don't see on the ice, but I think, we've got other guys stepping up who can do that as well.
That being said, there is one player who's going to get a decent payday, and I think they're going to sign him long-term and pay him a little bit more, go the Rasmus Anderson route, and that's Andrew Mangiapane. I think they go long-term with a little bit more money to get him locked up.
You don't think he holds out to training camp again?
No.
Probably not now.
He's making $15,000 more than Reeder is right now.
Mm-hmm. And that was a brilliant decision because he had a good training camp and season. So he's going to, honestly, I would be more than happy if the Flames gave him 5 years at 3.5.
I think with a long-term flat cap, I don't even think you go that high. I think going from 7.715, you probably get to 2.25 at the top end. If
it's at 2.25, I think he's going to go a little bit shorter, but I think if the Flames want to lock him up, and they should, because I'm not that high on him, I think they go up over 3 and into the mid 3s, and I think that's still very fair for him.
And even then, if we have what you said, Devin, $16 million. If we think he gets let's call it $3 million bonus, we give Talbot an extra 2. That still gives us about $10 million to play with.
Yep. And like Matt said, there's a guy who's in Arizona Coyotes jersey who could potentially want to come home.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sold.
Does that make you uncomfortable thinking about that, Kevin?
You still have to sign Jankowski. Come on.
Yeah. Priority.
Yeah, fuck Jankowski.
Well, he can take Jankowski's spot on the fourth line.
It was Devin last time that was complaining he wanted to see Buddy Robinson and Zarnik in there. Just put one of them in instead.
Or and Alan Quine. One of those three. That'd be great. Or Buddy Robinson would be a great addition to that fourth line with that big body, and he can skate.
I back up Devin. I still think the Flames have not used Austin Zarnik as well as they could have.
Oh, absolutely not. But putting him on, I don't know.
There are some guys, though, who need more time to be effective, and I'm not sure Zarnik is going to be effective playing 8 minutes a night on a fourth line.
Yeah, Zarnik really Zarnik should have signed with a lousy team where he could get guaranteed top 6 minutes.
Because that's what every agent's going to say, buddy. You got to sign Ottawa.
He's going to go to Edmonton or Toronto.
Honestly, if he was in Edmonton, I think he's one of their top 3 forwards.
Wow. Whoa.
The Oilers, man, they are just awful. It almost I'm just gonna go.
He could even be their best defender.
I'm gonna go on a little Oilers tangent here. It's like you took the Detroit Red Wings and added the 2 best players in the NHL just to see what would happen to a team that's that bad. And I think that the Oilers are just barely an NHL team with 2 good players.
If Zarnik was playing in Detroit, he'd get a lot more ice time.
Yeah.
He'll be on the top 6.
Yeah.
Easily. easily. But yeah, I think Dan's right. If he was playing on the fourth line, he wouldn't be getting that much time. But I do think he'd be more effective than Jankowski.
And Devin, I think we might see a guy like Zarnik come in if we get an injury in the top 9, because I think he'd be more effective to that kind of play. But I don't think he's conducive to that bottom 3. If you want to change those guys out, I don't think Ronaldo's the right option. I think I'd either go Quine or Robinson.
Yeah, and you knock on wood right now.
Does my cheap IKEA sawdust desk count?
It's good enough.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Robinson just for his physical attributes more than anything else.
And I think if we just want physical, we've got Ronaldo too. I mean, he's not a great hockey player, but he's a good physical presence.
He didn't show much in those first 2 games, though.
He showed what you expect him to show.
Yeah.
Well, you wanted more energy, and that's the only reason why he got his contract, is because in training camp he showed energy. He showed some pep in his step and some piss and vinegar, and he hasn't shown that. And especially with playoff hockey, that this is where he should shine.
I find that he does better when he's got something or some storyline to play with. And I think as this series goes on and there becomes some bad blood, I think you might see him do better.
Well, what's a better storyline than, him fighting for another job next year?
I think he'll get a job next year, whether here or somewhere else. He could be a top 6 in Detroit.
I think any one of us could be a top 6er in Detroit.
I'm going to training camp.
I'm going to be curious to see who Detroit exposes to Seattle. Like, can they pass on that pick?
Well, it would be just like Vegas taking Griffin Reinhart. It's like, well, we have to take somebody, I guess. And then, we're just going to throw you in waivers.
I was going to say, we're going to take you, but pack your stuff because you're going right on waivers.
Well, I think Colorado was one of the ones that got off really scot-free in that one. So I think they picked a guy who they didn't even qualify. He was an RFA.
Yeah. Well, I would argue Calgary did too. I don't think that England would have come back with a Vegas team because he lives in Vegas and he wanted to be there anyways. So.
Yeah, they definitely had some discussions being like, all right, well, if we expose you, would you want to go there?
Yeah.
What did we think? Okay, I'm going to make this question 1 and then question 2. What did we think of Cam Talbot? And are we seeing David Riddick in this series?
I was happy with Cam Talbot. I think we'll see David Riddick eventually, but I don't think for game 2.
I think I don't want to see David Riddick because to me that means Cam Talbot crapped the bed somehow. I think this is Talbot's net to lose at this point. And you know what? I think he was good enough. He's not Kiprusoff. He's not going to win you around by himself. But to me, he looks like an adequate goalie behind a team that's playing well.
Yeah, and the 2 goals they surrendered, there was nothing that he could really have done with either of them. Just bad luck. And I think that he was solid. He made all the saves that were necessary and just held the fort and was steady.
Not to mention the fact that he made a massive save with the goalie, Khudobin, finally getting out of the net as he tried. I think it was 3 or 4 times. And I laughed my ass off when I saw him so frustrated trying to get out the net for the second or third time. I thought that was hilarious. But Talbot, I feel like, I'm in the same boat with Dan here. If we do see Riddick, then Talbot has shit the bed, and that's not a good sign for the Flames. Organizationally, I would love to see Riddick in just to see what he has in the playoffs. But as far as having success in these special playoffs that we're playing, Cam Talbot needs to run with it.
Riddick is a guy who has high highs and low lows, and he doesn't do well with one-offs. He needs some time to get going. And I think putting him in for one game, you're not going to get what you want out of David Riddick.
So even in the back-to-back situations, you're playing Talbot both games?
Yep.
Absolutely.
I believe Jeff Ward did say he expected to play both goalies this series. And after this game, I wouldn't be surprised to see David Riddick in game 2.
I think if you want to play Riddick just for the sake of playing him, you do it on the second half of the back-to-back.
Either that or you just as much as you say there was nothing you could Talbot could have done in both those goals. Both those goals were not necessarily the best in terms of I bet you if you ask any sort of like true goalie experts, Kevin Woodley comes to mind. Just I bet you he would have some comments on that.
But I don't want to judge him on this one performance. If we look at the 5 before it, I think he deserves to play. Again, everyone has a bad game. Everybody makes mistakes. But if we judge him, if we just judge him tonight, Sean, yeah, I can see maybe putting Riddick in. But his body of work since the restart, I think he's earned the rest of those games.
There's that thought process, but there's also the thought process of, okay, he looks like he's a little off on his game. Because some goalies work well on the high playing all the time. Some goalies just need a little bit of fine tuning with coaching for like 2-3 days. And if Talbot's one of those guys, I don't know which way he actually leans on that, but if he's one of those guys where all you have to do is bring him back and have Jordan Sigalet work with him for 2 days of practice and not have to worry about playing, and then get him back in for game 3, you do that. Going to to the Canucks, Jacob Markstrom's that type of goalie. So if they have they notice some issues in his game, at least during the regular season, they would pull him off, play Demko, play whoever their backup is, and then put him back in after he's worked with Ian Clark, the goalie coach in Vancouver, a little bit to fine tune his game. If that's the way they think. If that's the way they think that Talbot can get back to where he was playing in the Winnipeg series, I can definitely see them playing Rittich in game 2.
I have a hard time with that take, Sean, because Talbot, he didn't like that. There's that one that squeaked in, but the other one he had no chance on that one. That one hit off of Brody's ass and in. And even the other one, he was screened on that one. So you're going to really fault him and you're going to punish him by sitting him for the next game? I don't think so, man.
I think if you pull Talbot out next game, you're going to cause a morale problem with the team. Totally. I think if nothing else, you got to try and let him work through it and then make that – like you could be right, Sean, but I think you say to him, hey, if you think you're ready to go, if he doesn't think he's ready, then take him out. But if he thinks he's ready, try to let him work through it and make that change for game 3 if you feel you need to.
I'm not saying that they should. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised at it. It comes down to the goalie coach. I think the amount of weight that the goalie coaches have in terms of who plays when is huge in this situation, especially with the back-to-backs. I think it's something that you don't normally see in playoffs. Usually teams ride their goalies just till they just fall apart and then switch. But now with the back-to-backs, I think you're going to see some teams. Carolina's done it already. Switch it up just based off of the stats and their what they think, and based off of what we've heard from Jeff Ward, I expect to see Rittich in game 2 or game 3.
So Kevin, you seem kind of surprised about the idea of playing him in the back-to-backs. If you were Dallas and Bishop's available, wouldn't you ride Bishop for both of them?
No, well, this is my thing. Is this I'm asking because we had this conversation because Ward said he's going to play both. I wanted Ward to say that this is Talbot's net, and I wanted Ward to declare Cam Talbot the number 1.
Ward's not the type of guy to do that, though. I think he kind of.
I think in the playoffs too, you've also got to keep them guessing. If they think they're going to see a different goalie, they're going to prepare differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a part of me, and I don't know why. It just it's more gut feeling than anything else. I'm not trusting where David Rittich is right now.
I know he's had some injuries, and like I said, David is not a guy. He does well under pressure, like when someone's pushing on him, but he needs a couple games when he comes back in to establish himself. And I don't think putting him in for 1 and taking him out is the best way to go. And he has some low lows. I know he was low last year a lot, especially after that Colorado game. And I worry about him managing those emotions if he comes in.
What was he like after the blowout game against Edmonton? I think we discussed this last time, but what was he like after that?
He's a guy who is he gets down on himself a lot, and he tries to, I don't even know how to describe it, but he gets very low on himself, and there's times when it wasn't his fault, and he'll take it as though he cost the team. And the thing I like about Talbot is he can say, you know what, it wasn't me, it was everybody, or you know what, we all need to play better. So Talbot doesn't own a loss as much as I think Riddick does.
All right, before we continue on here, Devin looks like he has to go.
Yes, I got to go.
Thanks, Dev.
All right, guys. Follow me on Twitter, Gordhouse09.
Okay. we're almost wrapping up, but the 20 minutes you spent was a lot longer, longer 20 minutes. So I totally appreciate that. And
Yeah.
friends that you've locked out of the house.
So we're in our fifth overtime. You're saying we're almost done?
Yeah.
Okay, see you guys.
Not so long.
I guess I'm just curious because looking back, I mean, when we had Kevin Woodley on talking about David Riddick, he listened to that podcast, by the way, but he talked about like there seemed to be an equipment adjustment that he made. There was something different. But I keep looking back at that Oilers series, that back-to-back series where he did the stick flip and the controversy happened. And I wonder if you're talking about he takes everything high and he takes everything low, was he in a situation where he took the criticism of the stick flip and he took it far too personally than he needed to, which led to part of the struggle and at that blowout game and then led to what's happened since?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we see when he's in a good mood. I mean, you mentioned the stick flip. We've seen him do the riding the stick thing. Like he takes wins very, very high. But when he gets criticism, like you're saying, or if he doesn't play well, he puts too much pressure on himself, I think is the best way to say it, for the next game to try and play better. And he almost gets in his own head. And sometimes that's why he's not doing well, because he's trying to avenge his last game in a lot of ways, where I think a guy like Talbot looks at each game as a completely separate event. And he can't kind of say, well, I did, sort of like Sean was saying today, you know what, maybe I let two in that I shouldn't, but I got to look at next game as a new event. I can't say I got to do better. I got to watch for these type of shots more. And I think part of that just comes with being a veteran goaltender.
Anything else that we need to talk about in this game, or anything else that we want to talk about overall?
Well, I think that the key looking ahead is, okay, we won game one. Now, which version of the Calgary Flames shows up?
Yeah, because we won game one last year too.
Won game one last series, and then we played poorly in game two, and then we came back for game three.
Yeah.
And I think we have to remember, as a group of fans that are used to this team not going further in the first round, this is 7 games potentially against the same opponent. You prepare very differently than we do when it's Dallas one night, Colorado the next, Edmonton the next. And, Matt touched on it, a few people touched on it. There's a pacing thing that we have to look at for a long round like this as well. We can't come out guns blazing every night.
Yeah, and the fact that game 2 and then game 3 is going to be the next night after that as well,
Yeah, I'm okay if Johnny doesn't produce tonight, if down the stretch in games 5 and 6 he's blowing the roof off. And they're paying some Oilers guy to throw hats on the ice for him.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess going into this game 2 then, how important is it that they win at game 2?
Vital. I think that you start the game off again with the Lucic line just to, get a little spark going. And I think that if they can get up to nothing, I think that it makes life a lot easier, just because of the fact that Dallas at that point is going to be really pushing in game 3, and it just gives you a little bit more of a buffer zone.
I personally don't think we have to win next game. As a Flames fan, I obviously want us to, but I don't think we have to. But I think if we keep playing the same game we played in 1 and 3, that's the important thing, is they're playing their game. And I think eventually that game will get them the wins.
Yeah, it's depending on what we look like. If we lose, but we lose by one goal, if we still look really good and it's just maybe an unlucky bounce, something like that, I'll be fine with that. But yeah, as I would rather win game 2, but if we don't. Let's bring it on for game 3.
What I'll say is, as long as they don't get blown out and even if it's a close game, but the Dallas carries the play significantly. It doesn't matter whether they win or not. I think they know that they can still beat Dallas.
I have a strong feeling Dallas is going to come out guns blazing, and I just don't want the Flames to get down by 2 and then stop playing like we've seen so many times.
Yeah, that's the key. As long as the game is close, the Flames know they have a chance.
And as long as they put 60 minutes of hockey on the ice.
If they let Dallas get going and get running, then that's an issue.
And it'll be interesting to see if the composure that they've shown in the last 3 games, if that will continue. Because if that continues, I don't think that what Dallas does will actually matter. Because I think they'll just hold the fort and then establish their game at that point.
And I think for the Flames to win next game, we need to see a better offensive production from Kevin's second line, the Goudreau line.
Thank you. It's how is it feeling now that you're recognizing that is the second line? Does it feel
as soon as I hang up here, they go back to being the first line. But while I'm on your show, I'll humor you.
Gosh, you'll learn.
Kevin, they're still technically the first line to me, but
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because Dallas. I think one of the problems with the
if we
Flames
want to be technical, Lucic's line is the first line. They were the first line that played in the game.
The one problem that the Flames have had, since the Gaudreau era in the postseason, is that when they win games, they have a hard time adjusting to the other team because they won.
They come in thinking they're the best.
Yeah, and Dallas did a few things, especially to get back into the game and push towards the end, that they have to realize that Dallas is going to be coming even stronger, and they have to make those anticipatory adjustments and not react. And I think that for the Flames to be successful moving forward, they're going to have to start to make those adjustments before the game even starts.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if Justin Dowling gets in the lineup for Dallas. He scored his first goal of his career against the Flames. I would not be surprised if he's in the lineup. And that's one change I for sure would suspect. And I wonder if we see more Ben Seguin together as well.
I think we'll see more Ben and Seguin together for sure. I think they need to find a way to get into the dirty areas and start creating havoc in front of the net. As I said, anyone go look at the heat map from this game from Natural Stat Trick. You can see how little they produced in front of the net in terms of shot attempts. It was just not enough. That heat map reminds me of Game 1 of the Canucks versus the Wild, when the Canucks didn't do that at all, and then they were able to move it in, and they were able to change that narrative real quick in Game 2. If Dallas does that, this series gets turned on their head, and the Flames cannot let that happen.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, let's leave it there. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canuck 03 on Twitter.
I'm at Heid Baseballs everywhere on social media.
For me, you probably don't want to follow me individually, but you can follow Fireside Chat on Twitter. We are at Fireside Podcast. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Fireside Chat. Or you can visit our website, firesidechat.ca, to subscribe via email or RSS. We had a new episode drop yesterday, and where we talk about the whole Dallas series and break this all down. So if you haven't heard that, go take a listen to that.
Yeah, and we'll be recording our second playoff episode on Sunday after Game 4. So we'll be recapping the first 4 and hopefully talking about our next opponent after that one.
Right. You follow Devin, of course, GordHouse09. Follow Tyler T. Noble, TNOBLE. Chris is Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. I am KVOLE. You can subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back on Thursday morning to recap the Vancouver Canucks St. Louis Blues Game 1. It will be Canucks Breakfast. That will be our next episode. I know for sure it'll be Sean and I and whoever else wants to hang out. We'll be there.
It.
What's that?
Not it.
I figured, whatever. That's fine. You can sleep in or go to work or whatever. But thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. And just make sure before we do that, we gotta hit stop.